questions on this or on anything else that people have to ask. We're here today for three important reasons. First, the Premier and I have signed the Intergovernmental Agreement on Forestry. This has been a long process for the people of Tasmania, but now with the forestry issues settled, we can get on with investing in Tasmania, and we are jointly committed to jobs and growth in Tasmania. So I thank the Premier for the agreement we've signed today. I'm also here to announce today a $22 million investment to help with the movement of freight here in the north of Tasmania. That too is about jobs and growth. It's about an investment of $12 million into the Maritime College, an investment of $5 million into industry training of workers in the maritime industry, and a capital investment into Bell Bay so freight can be moved more efficiently. But third, and standing here with the people who live and work here, with the people with disabilities that we've met today, most importantly, the Premier and I have signed today an agreement to roll out disability care throughout Tasmania. We had already agreed that Tasmania would have a launch site, and we would learn from that launch about the provision of services to young people, to adolescents moving into young adulthood. Today we have reached the agreement to do more to ensure that disability care is rolled out right throughout Tasmania. It's going to take some time to do, we've always been clear about that, but what this means is that by the 1st of July 2019, disability care will be here and operational for people in Tasmania with significant disabilities, and Tasmanians will have the reassurance and peace of mind which comes with knowing that if they or a family member in the future ever confront a disability, they will get the support that they need. So we let her take questions. I'll say a few more words after that about disability and hand over to Jenny Macklin, and then we'll take your questions. Unusual ordering. There we go.
Thank you, Prime Minister, and thank you also for allowing me to speak at this point before I have to go, because today is indeed a really important day for Tasmania on so many fronts. As the Prime Minister has spoken about, she and I did sign the Intergovernmental Agreement this morning on the forestry issue so that we can see the funds that have been promised to Tasmania and to those sawmillers who will have their log quotas brought back, the communities who want to have us work with them around economic development initiatives, and of course the management of the reserves that have now been created or in the process of being formalised, actually funded. We couldn't have done it without the Australian government, and I sincerely do thank Julia Gillard and her government for what they have done in being patient and working with us over the 3-year period to see an outcome for forestry in this state. So thank you very much for your personal commitment. She also, the Prime Minister also mentioned the help that the Australian government is providing us with freight. I also noticed an announcement yesterday with the University of Tasmania, which we believe is quite significant and will help us to leverage NBN in this state, needs of people living with a disability in Tasmania. Now, this isn't just about Tasmania. This is a reform that is about all Australians living with a disability, and I hope that it will not be long now before we see all of the other states also sign up to this critical reform. Here in Tasmania, this reform will assist almost 11,000 Tasmanians when it comes into its full being in that year of the financial year of 2019-20. I do want to actually also spend a moment to thank Cassie O'Connor, the Minister for Disabilities, for her role in helping to negotiate this agreement with the sector. This has taken a huge effort by many, many people over many years as well to achieve what has been reached today. These things don't happen overnight. None of the issues that we're covering here today have happened overnight, whether it be forestry, disabilities, freight, or indeed further investment in our university here in Tasmania too. It's been a massive effort. It's a day we can all be very proud of. And I know particularly with NDIS just how important this has been. Important to mums and dads who are raising their children with a disability, worried about the future of their children. Important for those carers and providers of services who needed certainty that they would get the funding they need to look after people with a disability in our community, and most critically important for those who are living with a disability in our community to know that they will get the help they need when they need it. So this is a historic day. This reform is as big as Medicare in its day and is absolutely fundamental. And the commitment that's been shown by Jenny Macklin for all these years, by Cassie O'Connor, by Julia Gillard, and by the other premiers who've already signed up, does, I believe, needs that recognition, and most importantly, the campaigners pay a role to play in delivering this much-needed reform, and we look forward to delivering it here in Tasmania. We were determined to make NDIS work in this state regardless. What the announcement of the disability care levy through Medicare has enabled us to do is to get some financial relief from the burden that we were willing to carry, because we understood how important this was to people living with a disability. But the result of this means that the growth funding, the additional funding that we will put in to this disability sector, half of that, around half of that, will now be covered by the contribution we will receive through the Australian government through that Medicare levy increase to cover disability care. So it certainly does help alleviate some of the pressure that we had on our budget in those out years.
What are those funding figures?
Effectively, over a 6-year period, we're putting in an additional $134 million. And generally speaking, that when we start to get into the settled system, that's around about an additional $37 million per year beyond that. There are some additional costs in the very first year that lifts that figure up, but on an ongoing basis, it's around that vicinity. So we expect through the levy we will get roughly $22 million back, so it's around about half of that additional cost in those ongoing out years.
Where will the rest of Tasmania's share come from?
Well, obviously, they're issues that will be dealt with through budget processes, as the full NDIS does not begin until the financial year 2019-20. At this point in time, it will not show up in our budget because it is beyond the out years of our budget. But it will be an issue that future governments will need to fund, but this is manageable. If you are talking about an extra $20-odd million, that can be done, and any government, whatever political persuasion, who uses it as an excuse not to deliver for disability, I believe should hang their head in shame.
Does this mean that there won't be an impact on the aim to return to surplus by 2014?
The issue around returning to surplus in the state budget is not associated with this issue because of the fact that this is beyond the out years of our budget. But what I would say is, while you'll have to wait for budget day to see what the impact is, Tasmania is facing challenges. It is becoming harder in that respect, and we are doing our best to work towards our fiscal strategy.
Sorry, Premier, have you received any assurance that Tasmania is take from the GST won't be reduced as a result of this?
We have signed up to NDIS under the same conditions as South Australia has signed up, which did have a clause within it to ensure that our state was not put at a disadvantage around the GST component of disability services. And the funded aspect of that, and the Australian government are working with us over that transition period to ensure we're not put at a disadvantage.
Why are we aiming for 2019 instead of 2018 as the other states?
Essentially, it's about how and when we can be ready to really go into the full scheme. And we are very pleased that on the 1st of July of this year, we will begin the first cohort of those who will be on the full NDIS scheme. They will be people from the age of 15, I think, to 24 years of age, and we're very pleased that they will get the immediate benefits of a full-blown NDIS, and they will have the comfort of knowing to receive the benefits that they start receiving on the 1st of July.
Time for two more questions.
There's around 1,000 of those people who fit within that age category, and they are spread across the state, as you would expect, similarly to our demographics as they are.